There are hundreds of racing games out there and it can be overwhelming to pick which one you want to get. So today I want to give unbiased, unsponsored advice on what games you should get for your racing simulator. And just to let you know, this is for more of a serious and competitive sim racing experience. So let's get into it. First up, we got Assetto Corsa Competizione, or ACC, as you probably know it. If you love GT4, GT3, or GT2 cars of the modern era, ACC is the game for you. ACC works in coordination with the Fanatec GT World Challenge, so it's able to bring in beautiful manufacturer spec race cars that are laser scanned into game, as well as laser scanned tracks such as Laguna Seca, Imola, Monza, and many more. This game is fantastic and very worth its price. There's not a lot of microtransactions within the games. There's a few DLCs for additional tracks and cars, but the base game is fantastically entertaining. But there are a couple issues with the game at hand. First off, if you're not a big GT car fan, you don't like GT4, GT3, or GT2 cars, you're frankly gonna get bored because that's all that's in the game. The game's purpose is to work in coordination with the Fanatec GT World Challenge. So those are the only cars that will ever be in the game. Next up, there are some bugs and issues with the game, but it is very minimal. But that's a very minority set group of people, and the vast majority still find it a very enjoyable game. But it's not the only game you should get, and frankly isn't the only game you should play. When it comes to a simulator experience, ACC is a game you should have on hand, but isn't the game that you should rely on for that GT car practice that you so desire. That platform is coming up shortly. But first, we gotta touch on Assetto Corsa. Assetto Corsa was the predecessor to ACC, and although the game is over a decade old, it's still a great one that you need to get. Number one, because it's cheap, because it's over a decade old. And number two, it probably has the strongest sim racing community. Every single day, new track and car mods are released through the community. You can drive your favorite rally cars, your favorite GT cars, LMP cars, F1 cars, even Thomas the Tank Engine, or a house cat if you so desire to do that for some reason. Modders like the RSS group create one-to-one replications of Formula 1 cars with dangerously accurate physics and cosmetic body parts, as well as more accurate physics than the EA Sports F1 game. It is on record that Formula drivers such as Gabriel Bortoleto and even Fernando Alonso use these cars to train for upcoming races such as Qatar this past Formula 1 season. So even though the game is over a decade old and a lot of the content is community based, you can't count out Assetto Corsa because frankly it's too good, and there are literal terabytes of car and track mods for you to explore with yourself and even your friends. Safe to say, this decade old game is a must for you to get. And finally, we have our last game that you must get, and of course it's gotta be iRacing. It puts other games like we talked about before, such as ACC, in the dirt. Since 2009, the developers of iRacing have been putting out new cars and tracks into the game. Whether you like spec Miata, oval racing of literally any kind, GT car racing, LMP racing, formula car racing, iRacing has the series for you. This game is what pro racing drivers such as Max Verstappen and literally dozens of others. I only wanted to mention Max Verstappen because there are dozens, if not hundreds, of other amateur to professional racing drivers that use this game as a tool. iRacing's tire model and physics is the most accurate compared to any other game, which makes the driving experience like no other. Now, the one negative that people have with iRacing is there are a lot of transactions within the game. First off, it's off a subscription-based model. So you don't buy the game once and keep it forever. You have to download it and pay a subscription either every month, every quarter, every half year, or every year in order to keep playing the game. And unless you get a first-time user deal, a year-long subscription is $110. Not to mention, if you want to use cars and tracks outside of the base game, You have to pay for it. You want to race Porsche Cup cars at Laguna Seca? Gonna have to pay for it. Want to race Xfinity cars at Bristol? Gonna have to pay for it. Each car is $12 and each track is $15. However, you don't have to pay for every single car. Thankfully, you only have to pay for the car you want to race. So say you want to race new GT3 cars, which will probably consist of an Aston Martin, Ferrari, BMW, Porsche, Lamborghini, etc, etc. You don't have to buy every single car to race at a track. You only have to pick the one that you want to race. So say you want to race the M4 GT3, you just got to buy that car, which inherently is a plus. And even though you got to pay for literally everything in the game, it's so worth it. The amount of experience you get with other drivers and the solid wheel-to-wheel racing is like no other game and is worth a couple $100. You could literally race against Max Verstappen or some random esports driver on any given day. That's the greatness of iRacing. And not to mention its safety ranking system and its iRating system is pretty top notch. So you'll race against good people. You won't get rammed in every single race you join, and you can't get that experience anywhere else. So, do you have these sim racing platforms? And if you don't, are you gonna buy them now? Also, if there's a sim racing platform that I left out, leave it down below. I realized I left out one big component, which is rally racing, and spoiler alert, you should get Dirt Rally 2.0 or Richard Burns Rally. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.